To this QDC information session with Paul Billiken in particular and myself. What are we going to take you through? So I'm going to introduce you first of all to Paul, who heads up the faculty for the Quantitative Developer Certificate. We'll talk about what the QDC actually is, why it's beneficial, the faculty, which is, I think, a unique part of this program for reasons which Paul and I will explain shortly. We'll talk about the kind of profile that you need to have in order to be admitted onto the program. There are professional profiles and academic profiles. Paul will then take you through the syllabus. He'll break down the syllabus for you, module by module. We'll then talk about the study partner program, which is incredibly important, our help desk as well. And we'll finish off with a Q&A session. I think if you've got questions during the course of this presentation, then feel free to ask away, and I'll keep a tab on the chat box. Okay, so who's Paul? Paul is a very bright spark, way out of my league, that's for sure. He was educated at Oxford and Imperial College to PhD level. So he's an academic, but he's also a practitioner with 17 years experience in the financial marketplace, in roles that are relevant, very relevant to the Quantitative Developer Certificate. So he began as a quant. He then transitioned to become a quant trader, and he was so good at quant trading that they made him a director. He is also a professor stroke lecturer, visiting lecturer of mathematics for computer science at Imperial College. And he's founder of Thalessians. I'm sure the vast majority of you know Thalessians, if not Paul himself, who's extremely highly regarded and well known around the world. And Thalessians is an AI company with literally thousands of LinkedIn followers. So you're in very, very good hands. He's also incredibly eloquent when it comes to lecturing, which he's done for a long time now. So what is the QDC about? It's a 6-month part-time quantitative developer course with weekly lectures live in London, and they're available globally online. In fact, the vast majority of the people who do this program do it from around the world, with a small minority in London. The program is comprised of 5 modules, which incorporates 23 lecture weeks. There are assignments, modular tests, and a final exam which can be taken from anywhere in the world. Because it is dealing with multiple languages, it is theoretical to begin with, but there is a massive emphasis on the practicality of this course. So this, once you've done the QDC, in fact, even during the course of you doing the QDC, you will be able to transition the knowledge that you've picked up from the program directly in the workplace. And that is our emphasis. This is a professional qualification. It's not an academic qualification. The course objective: to develop fundamental skills of quantitative developer role. It's designed practitioners from quantitative finance, including Paul being a major part of who designed this program, from quantitative finance with experience in model development for derivative pricing and systematic trading. So just from that summary, you can see that it really is, there is a very practical focus to this program. There are 3 lecturers on the QDC program. And I think this is where it's very unique. They're all specialists in the field of quantitative finance. I'll let you know, and Paul will let you know who they are shortly. But I think the main point of this, we didn't want a faculty that comprised of, 8 to 15 different lecturers during the course of a 6-month program, because what that does is, because they're all experts in their own field, they are different from one another. And so when you move from one lecture to the next with different lecturers each time, the transition isn't as smooth as it could be. And I know this firsthand because I was involved in a quantitative finance program for several years. And I know that it was, in my experience anyway, the transition from one module to the next was not smooth. This one is, and the 3 instructors are incredible. They are, the feedback that I've received from people who have done this program is very good, and the instructors know each other very well, and they just work very well as a team. The primary coding languages of the course are Python and C++. There's also KDB and the language Q. So you're dealing with multiple languages. This is very unique as well, where 1 or 2 other programs don't have such a breadth of languages to teach on. The highly practical nature of the certificate allows employees to directly use their newly obtained knowledge in the workplace environment. I've expressed that already, and that is how the program was designed. It's a graduate level professional qualification. It is internationally renowned, and that's partly because of the faculty who are internationally renowned. There is an individual commitment to career development. We also help with career development. When you graduate from this program, we have a very comprehensive and vibrant and active employment service. But this employment service is specifically for independent delegates. So if there's any delegates who are sponsored through this program by their companies, even just partially sponsored, 10% sponsored, then we can't help you. We can't help you move to another company when the company you're working for has paid for you to go through this program. But if you are independent, then we definitely can help you. And the contacts that we have in this sector are incredibly extensive. So the employment service is something that I'd be happy to talk to you about individually as well. So if you wanted to, you've all got my contact details. So if you want to talk to me about the employment service, what happens after you graduate from the program, how we help you, then I'm happy to talk to you about that. What else? Faculty led by Paul Billiken. Okay. Yes, alumni benefit from continuous education and expanding professional development program. So you will have access not only to all future QDC programs, and they will be different from one another because already since its inception, it's changed quite a lot. The syllabus has changed quite a lot because the world is changing so quickly, and there are new topics that are more topical than they were previously. And so we're always looking to stay up to date. So if you were to enroll onto the program that begins in April, you can also have access to the program in 5 years' time or 10 years' time or whenever. The other thing is that we run additional webinars, and these are lifelong learning webinars, and you will have access to these in perpetuity for the rest of your careers. So if there's a topic area, if you're going for an interview, for example, for a particular role, and there's a topic area that you need to brush up on, then you can access the webinar that relates to that topic area. So it's incredibly useful. And we want to maintain a relationship with you literally for the rest of your careers. And we do that. We have a very strong alumni network, including networking events taking place throughout next year in different regions in the world. So who is the faculty? Well, here it is. Paul heads up the faculty, and his very close associates are Ivan Zdankin, who works at JP Morgan, and Saeed Aman, who is an entrepreneur and who is also a lecturer at Queen Mary University. So this is the triumvirate, if you like, of lecturers that will take you through the entire program. And they work very closely to make sure that all the modules relate to one another and that there's an actual progression as you work your way through the QDC program. What's the profile of the QDC in terms of the delegates that go through the program? It's a global community. It's primarily, I would say, the majority of delegates who go through this program are from the UK and Europe, followed closely by North America, and then followed by Asia and South America and Australia to date. That could well change. But for the time being, that's what the global profile of attendees is for the QDC. So this is really important. What kind of profile do you need to have in order to be admitted onto this program? Because the last thing that we want to do is admit you onto the program only for you to find that this is way over your head, or that you struggle to understand some of the concepts that are being talked about. And this is our responsibility as well as yours, to make sure that you do have the right profile and that you will be able to follow the lectures from Module 1 right the way through to the end of Module 5. So the professional profiles, this is important enough for me to emphasize each and every one of them. Either quantitative analysts, risk management, actuaries, if you work in a hedge fund, asset managers, IT, quant trading, insurance, model validation, risk management we've already mentioned, data scientists, if you work with derivatives, or if you structure derivative products. And the academic profiles are numeric, for the most part, computing, mathematics, physics, banking and finance, or engineering. And I think that if you don't have one of those profiles on this list, but you do want to do the program, then please let's arrange a discussion, and it'll be a direct one and an honest one, where I'll need to gauge your background and find out whether or not you're suitable for the QDC program. These are some of the employing institutions who've sent delegates onto this program: JP Morgan, UBS, Imperial College, Huawei, Nomura, Deutsche, Credit Suisse and Deloitte. And there are many others, but these are the ones that we've decided to promote. So the QDC journey starts this evening with acquiring as much knowledge as possible about this program. We'll be discussing course details in a moment. So Paul will be breaking down the syllabus of the program. There are, this session is going to be recorded. So you're more than welcome to re-watch this session if you're still unsure about whether or not to enroll in due course. You then apply online via the registration form on our website. The admissions team, it takes usually 3 days, up to 3 days, for them to determine whether or not you're suitable for the program. You'll then receive a full set of course materials and textbooks before the start of the program, and then you begin the program. And it's 5 modules of varying length. So on average, 1 month each, and it covers all aspects of quantitative development. Online seminars, There's also a student faculty forum. And in fact, I'll talk about the help desk later, but it's very comprehensive if you want to talk to any of our faculty. Online tests at the end of each module, and then a final unseen written exam at the end of module 5. Okay, I shall pause there and speak to you a little bit later, and I'll hand you over to Paul, who will break down the syllabus and who will talk about also program delivery.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff, for this excellent introduction to the course. The course is usually delivered as lectures. So each lecture is about 2 hours, and it's delivered in person, sometimes remotely, depending on whether the lecturer is actually physically in London at the time, but normally we deliver them from our office in Canary Wharf, level 39, which is highly regarded as the fintech space, and it's right in the middle of Canary Wharf, so normally that's where we deliver our lectures from. We also stream them remotely via WebEx, so we have a large audience which is globally distributed, so people can join all over the world. These lectures are recorded. They can be accessed through our education portal. The assignments tend to be multiple choice, as is the exam that we currently administer at the end of the course. And throughout the program, we cover sort of real-world applications and deliver quite a lot of content, which is tailored to the program. But also we host now and then ad hoc webinars where we focus on different interesting aspects of the course, or things that are sort of related to the course, but maybe not directly. Yeah, so we aim to broaden the appeal and broaden the horizon of our members, of our alumni as well. So maybe
there's a question that's come up from Manny. If I already have the CQF from Fitch Learning, how different is the QDC?
I think Jeff, because you have been involved in both programs, I think maybe you're best positioned to really answer this. Sure.
So I think it's very different. I think the CQF, one difference in particular I should mention is the cost. So I think where the CQF costs something in the region of £12,000, the QDC costs £5,000. And one of the reasons for that is because the QDC is more focused on the different programming languages. And this is something that Paul will take you through in the when he breaks down the syllabus. The CQF doesn't necessarily focus on programming languages. For example, they've got a separate C++ programming course. So you don't do C++ within the CQF itself. And I would say that the lecturers on the CQF program are a mixture of academics and market practitioners. I think there's a lot of academics on the CQF. It's a very good program, the CQF, by the way. So Manny, I suspect you know that already. You would know yourself, what you went through on the CQF program. So I think you'll have a much better idea of what the differences are once Paul has taken you through the syllabus breakdown in a second. Yeah, I think that's the best way that I can answer it for the time being. No problem.
No problem.
No need to be sorry.
And maybe I'll add to that this program the Quantitative Developer Certificate focuses on programming. And I think a good thing about programming is that, well, first of all, you can view it in different ways. Yeah. So in finance, in particular, not everyone is necessarily, a maths PhD, for instance. Yeah. So there is, and the amount of like heavy mathematical work in finance is actually fairly limited. It's limited to quant teams. It's limited to basically people who work on exotic derivatives or innovate within exotic derivatives and so on. So mathematics is a useful skill, but it's there is a fair number of jobs. There is a fair number of jobs that you can access. But again, I mean, heavy kind of PhD and beyond level mathematics is probably not as common in finance. At the same time, finance itself is perhaps relatively easily picked up. Okay, so the basic finance, not like heavy mathematical stuff, but common sense finance, is something that people fairly quickly can learn on the job. Programming and maybe let me kind of go back to actually machine learning. We do have another course, which is the Machine Learning Institute Certificate, where we teach machine learning, and it's certainly becoming more widespread, especially as people do more and more data-driven work, as there is more and more automation within machine learning. So it's becoming progressively more and more important. But to do anything within machine learning, you do need to program it. And more generally, to do anything within finance, kind of anything concrete, you also need to program it. That is why programming is a very important skill within finance, within machine learning, within both of those. And there are a lot of people who you can encounter, right? And I'm sure you will encounter them in this field, right? And I don't know if it's a politically correct word, but I would describe them as bullshitters. Yeah. So there's a large number of bullshitters in this field who will tell you everything about machine learning, everything about all this stuff, right? And they will not be able to implement any of it. Yeah. Maybe it's not a politically correct word, but do I really care? I don't. Okay. So there are, the number of people who kind of claim to do machine learning, for instance, is very, very high, right? But unless you can implement it, you can cite stuff, you can mention papers, you can mention, I don't know, some articles like, backpropagation work and so on, or, generative learning and so on, but they're just buzzwords unless you can actually implement it, and implementing any of this requires programming. In fact, nowadays, even if you just want to look at the data, yeah, even if you want to make sense of the organization's data and say, okay, this is how much P&L we are making, we are making, this is our profit and loss, this is what we are actually doing, or just ask basic questions. Okay, so what's the organization doing? What's the current status of things? That's you absolutely need to work with databases. You absolutely need to write code. Okay, so there is basically nowadays, whatever you're doing within finance and machine learning, you have to program. On a separate note, programming is also, so it's actually a massive differentiator, right? And usually, okay, there is of course organizational politics and all that, but people will quickly work out that you can do stuff if you can program. Right, your management will work out that you can program, because that will be a massive differentiator for you in your career. Yeah, so there will be lots of people who, for various reasons, are unable to program, unable to work with data, and then they will be limited in the amount of work, the kinds of questions that they can address, the kinds of questions that basically nowadays everyone has to program, including if you are management and if you want to understand your own organization, and if you want to be able to differentiate yourself from the rest. Yeah, you absolutely have to program. And many people can just about program, and they do it badly, and they sort of get by. And that means you can probably query a database, you can probably ask some data-related questions, but you will not be able to build anything of significance. You will not be able to build a large enough system that will be useful. Yeah. So there is a massive difference in skills. So you will have quite a lot of bad programmers, and they tend to drift from one job to another because people work out that they're not productive and stuff like that, and it's very difficult to people want to retain the top talent, and you want to really demonstrate that you are a top tier programmer. Yeah, that's something that you absolutely want to demonstrate. And that's what we deliver in this course. We teach you how to do serious programming, how to be a leader in programming, how to be really productive with this. Another thing that I'll add, nowadays, there is a lot of uncertainty. Yeah, there is a lot of uncertainty. There is geopolitical uncertainty. There is, conflict. There is lots of stuff going on, as you know. I don't need to tell you that. Also, the good thing about programming is that it's a transferable skill, right? It's not linked exclusively to finance. It's not linked exclusively to this domain. You can take it to manufacturing. You can take it to pretty much anything nowadays, anything that has any degree of automation, cybersecurity, for instance. Yeah, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, logistics, bioinformatics, drug discovery. There's a massive applications of programming. Intelligence. So if you, for example, look at, the kind of job posts that you see across these fields, you will see that all of these posts require programming of one form or another. So let me perhaps, looking at these slides, we have Python for finance. Well, whatever you do nowadays, you absolutely have to program in Python, because everyone programs in Python. Yeah. So all data science work is done in Python. You absolutely have to be able to do stuff in Python. Any data analysis work, any machine learning work, any prototyping is done in Python. Okay, so it goes without saying that nowadays Python is whatever programming you do, you have to learn Python, right? And that's why we start with this module. And Python libraries, we talk about how to access different data sources, be it Bloomberg or Quandl, how to bring data across different fields, how to visualize the data, how to build trading strategies. Yeah, that's a finance-specific application. How to compute volatility, another finance-specific application. So this is delivered by Saeed Amen, a good friend of mine. He's a fellow, we've known each other for, I think, 22 years. So that's something you definitely want to attempt. You definitely want to learn Python. It's absolutely essential to be able to program in Python. Then the second module is a little bit more niche. Well, it's not niche in the sense that we introduce databases, because databases are, wherever there is data, there are databases. Yeah, so any kind of data intensive enterprise, and pretty much all enterprises nowadays are data intensive, they involve databases. So you absolutely have to be able to work with databases. But the database that we consider here is KDB, yeah, KDB is the database that you use where you have very large volumes of data, where you have streaming data, and where you have high frequency data that arrives every nanosecond. So in finance, you get this in electronic trading. So pretty much every major bank and every major hedge fund has KDB installed. But also you get this with Formula One cars, for instance. They generate lots of real-time data, and that data goes into the KDB. KX, the authors of KDB, have had a very strong relationship with Formula One. I mean, they're diversifying away from finance as well, having pretty much all major banks being users of KDB. So knowing KDB allows you to work with databases which have billions of rows of data. And nowadays, there are many, many databases like that, and you encounter them in different fields. Yeah. So you've certainly heard big data, right? Well, if you want to work with big data, you need to work with KDB. If you have real streaming data arriving in real time, then again, you have to be able to work with KDB. Yeah. So it's basically a must. You absolutely have to learn KDB if you're in one of these areas. There is a question: time series data is analyzed in Python as well. So using KDBQ, please advise what additional features it will provide or what advantages it has over Python. Well, in Python, you will be using something like pandas or VIX or something like that to deal with data. The problem is you are really restricted by the volume of data that you can handle in a pandas data frame, but you're also limited by speed. Yeah. So pandas is relatively fast, but it's nowhere near the speed that KDB provides. Yeah. Also, Python doesn't offer so in terms of speed, yeah, I mean, Python is orders of magnitude slower than what you get with KDB, and in some areas, where you have, huge, data sets with millions of rows of data, billions of rows of data, trillions of rows of data. Yeah, you have to use KDB. So KDB is not open source; it's a proprietary product. It's a proprietary product, and you can get a personal license for KDB. You can have a personal license. You can work with KDB independently for personal use, but KDB is quite expensive. So we are really talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds per year for licenses, perhaps millions of pounds for a site license, and most banks already have those licenses, right? Most big hedge funds, companies like Citadel would have those licenses, right? So you would not necessarily have to think about buying a license for this thing. And also they have, if you run a startup, they do have some special terms and conditions for startups. So you can talk to KX First Derivatives about that if you want to do this. I think a major differentiator, right? If you just work as a developer, I'm not saying necessarily work as a quant, because as a quant, you are also a developer, but I mean, there is some other stuff that you have to do. But even if you just work as a consulting developer, then knowing KDB, you can charge people about twice as much, or maybe more, right, than you would charge them per day if you program in Python, for instance. Yeah. So I'm really saying upwards of £1,500 per day. Maybe sometimes you can be paid, I don't know, £2,000 per day, depending on the contract. Yeah, depending on. And also you have some very lucrative jobs if you know KDB, and because there aren't that many KDB developers around, your jobs will be relatively secure. Okay, so those are some other advantages of knowing KDB. Yeah, and also, if you join a bank, and if you can work with KDB, you have a competitive advantage. Because many people do find KDB mind-boggling. I will tell you that from the start. In an organization, there is usually a relatively small number of capable KDB developers, people who can write non-trivial code in KDB and understand the databases that are present. So you would be among very few people who can really make sense of this high-frequency data, and that does bring certain advantages. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend that you do learn KDB. And also, there was a question again about Python, and thank you, Manny, for your comments. And indeed, those are very, very true. So I think another comment from Deb is that you don't actually have to view them as competing with Python. You can actually interact between Python and KDB. And you can also, do quite a lot of, you can do the processing, data processing, that requires a lot, speed in KDB, and then you can send it over to Python, and then you can work with stuff that, then you can do stuff which is less time critical, for instance, right? So KDB and Python work very well together. So I do use both all the time. Okay, so if we look at the next slide, well, C++. What can I say about C++? So if you want to write a serious industry-grade project, you would probably do this in C++, right? So most derivatives pricing finance systems in finance are written in C++. Beyond finance, I think C++ and Java are among the two most common programming languages that are used in aeronautics, for example, in shipping, in business in general, in, factory management. So C++ allows you to build large projects, because of its strict object-oriented model. It's also very fast, So pretty much all high-frequency trading firms use C++. A lot of pretty much everything that that was built in finance pretty much every derivatives pricing library is also written in C++. Sometimes there is a Python interface, sometimes not. But knowing C++ makes you a serious developer. Okay, so it makes you a serious developer, and I can't remember who said that, but basically the world runs on C++. Yeah. C++ is more difficult to debug. That is true. In C++, you need to write code very close to the metal. You need to do memory management and stuff like that. But I would definitely recommend that you learn C++.
We've got another question here, Paul.
Okay. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Paul. I'm interested, but I have family obligation after completion of the QDC program. Do we have the possibilities to work remotely within your network of contacts? Is it for Sukibal, is that for finding jobs, or is it for kind of completing the program? You can definitely work remotely. That's not an issue. Yeah, there are, or is it like in terms of jobs? Yeah, I think quite a lot of people nowadays still, especially in the post-COVID world, right? I currently do several coding projects, and I do them remotely. Yeah, so I am consulting. I'm consulting two hedge funds right now, in very different capacities. One high frequency trading, one futures futures kind of more kind of a voice driven hedge fund, and I'm doing all that remotely.
So I think also this is dependent on entirely on the organization that you'll be working for, and the nature of the job. So what Paul's describing there is, remote work that he's doing, I think, on a contract basis. If you're looking to get help to find a job which is suitable, and ties in with your family commitments so that you can work remotely, then we can help you to find such a job through the array of contacts that we have. So this is something that you and I can talk about if you want. But yeah, I think it is entirely dependent. If you're going to go for a job where they want you to work in the office, you need to make a decision yourself as to whether if the balance between the money that they're offering for the work and the culture of the organization and so on. You just need to balance all these things together and decide, right, well, I can't work in an office, or I can, but temporarily, and so on. So there's various different options, but certainly insofar as we're concerned, it's a passion of mine helping people to get jobs. This is something that I did when I was working on the CQF program, and I loved it. And so I provide a lot of guidance, not just with regards to jobs and job specs and so on, but also with regards to getting the jobs, because nowadays it's incredibly competitive. For any single job, you can have up to 30, 40 applicants for the same job role. So it's my job in a way to help you to individualize yourself as much as possible and separate yourself from the rest of the people who are applying for the job. So I give you guidance with regards to interview techniques as well. So that if you want to talk to me about it, then let's arrange a time to discuss.
Yeah, and also, I do hire for various roles as my work at Talesian. So I also look for developers, right, in case that is of interest. By the way, some people have recently, so Elon Musk, right, when he took over Twitter, he banned remote working, because Elon doesn't think it's a good idea. Yeah, but I think he's still a minority. I don't think this is kind of industry practice, especially post-COVID. I mean, there is so much remote work. So, in fact, even people like Barclays, they don't even have desks for everyone because so many people are working remotely. Even if people do come in, they have to share desks. But actually,
also on LinkedIn, for example, you can choose to search for jobs that are remote only. So you do have some power of choice in this day and age to determine whether to work remotely or not.
And I was going to say that, speaking of Elon Musk, I mean, if you are a developer, then it's a good idea. I mean, he actually tweeted the entire kind of architecture diagram for Twitter, and that's certainly very interesting to look at. Yeah, so you will find it on LinkedIn or on Twitter if you want to see basically how Twitter works. Yeah, so then I think it's kind of an interesting it's an interesting post. So I would definitely, I was actually curious to understand, what kind of infrastructure, what kind of stack they use, and yeah. But anyway, so C++, yeah, that takes you kind of into kind of serious industry grade developer category. And data structures and algorithms in C++, this module is also taught by Ivan, and it sort of takes things a bit further. Yeah, takes things a bit further in comparison with Module 3, where you are introduced data structures and algorithms, and those are kind of basic building blocks for serious software development. Okay, of course, C++ has the STL, this standard template library, and so you look at that, and it's very, very powerful, and it's just fun to work with. It's templatized, and it's just fun to kind of understand this stuff. So I strongly recommend that that you join this program and attend all these modules. So finally, this module 5 is something that I teach, and it focuses on electronic trading, but it also focuses on high frequency trading. So I consult several high frequency trading companies. I've also worked on high frequency trading systems before on the sell side. So I think that you guys will find this very interesting. A very interesting module, because it talks about the optimizations that you can do to create real-time systems, how to minimize latency, how to, functional reactive programming is a relatively new and still somewhat obscure programming paradigm. There is now one book on high-frequency trading. Yes, and I think, Manny, you've mentioned one of my books, which is Machine Learning and Big Data with KDB plus Q. So thanks a lot for mentioning that. So that was co-written with Jan Novotny, and who's at Nomura, and Aris Galiotis, who I think is also at Nomura, and Fred Deleuze, who's currently consulting. Okay, so that's an interesting book. I wouldn't say it's the only book on KDB. You can also get Q for Mortals. You can get the 2 books by Nick Saris. There are 4 books on KDB currently. And but there is only one book, as far as I know, on like the practice of kind of high frequency trading. And my students and I are working on another book. We hope to make it more detailed. The kind of stuff that you use in this, it's also what you use in real-time computing. Okay, so, and real-time machine learning. So if you want to build a robot that kind of responds to events in real time, right, that's the kind of programming that you use. And that's the sort of programming that we teach in this module on designing trading systems and high-frequency trading systems. And I think that's the last module of the course, right? I think that's the last module of the course, and maybe that's over to you, Jeff, because you can cover the rest of the slides.
Sure, no problem. Okay. So yeah, we run a study partner program. I say we run it. It's really something that that you, if you're looking to enroll onto this program, if you can enroll with a study partner either from your organization or from your country or region, or working in a similar role to you, or with somebody who's working in a role that you want to get into, that can be very, very productive. This is a long program. It's a pretty intense program, especially if you've got a full-time job. It's a professional qualification, which means that it's practical. And if you're looking to, if there are challenges on the program that you can tackle with 1 or 2 others, then we strongly encourage that. On the other side of the coin, if you enroll onto the program and you're looking to study with somebody, if you haven't managed to find somebody yourself and you're looking to us to help you find somebody to study with, then this is the reason why it's called the Study Partner Program. If there is somebody from your organization, or if there is somebody from your region, or somebody who's working in a similar role that is also enrolling on the program beginning in April, then we will happily introduce you to one another, and that way you can go through the program together. So the help desk it's very comprehensive indeed. It has to be. I think that any program like this, if they don't have a help desk, then they're not really doing you justice. Because if you don't understand something, then that's what the help desk is for. And we strongly encourage everybody to use the help desk as frequently as they can whenever they're struggling to understand any of the topic areas or anything else for that matter. So if there are any other challenges, if you want to talk about if you're reaching the end of the program and you're looking to start applying some of the knowledge and skills that you're acquiring in your role, or you're looking to move into a new role in which you'll be using these skills more frequently, then that's what the help desk is for. Faculty support as well. So the response time is usually pretty quick, despite the fact that these three faculty members are very busy. They are also very precious when it comes to this program. So they value it highly. They value the people who enroll onto the program, and I really mean that. It's they are incredibly helpful, and so as soon as you come through to the help desk and explain what it is that you need help with, we get in touch with the right faculty member, and they will speak to you directly, or you can have an email exchange with them, or whatever. So I think I've spoken already quite a lot about the employment service, but it is underlined there. This service is for self-funded applicants only. So if you're sponsored, for those of you who joined us late, if you're sponsored through this program by your organization, whether 10%, 20%, 100%, you cannot be helped by us at all. If you are self-funded, then we can help you. And we're very proud of this, I have to say. And it's, I think, an extremely important part of this whole offering. You're spending money to acquire knowledge and acquire programming skills, so you want to be able to use them professionally. Well, we have to take some responsibility in helping you to get the job that you want to move into in order to use these skills. And I think that the interview coaching is extremely important in this day and age. I think it's critical that you understand not only the job role, so you'll see the job spec, you'll submit your CV, you'll apply for this role. And I think that in order to, if you then are successful in being invited in for an interview, then it's massively important that you understand way over and above the job role itself. So you need to find out and do plenty of reading on the organization itself, on the history of the organization, what are their current strategies, what are their objectives, and what strategies do they use to meet those objectives, what's the team's function within the organization of the role that you're looking to secure, how does the role fit into the team, so you need to ask the relevant questions. And it's not just listing those questions, you need to be motivated enough so that during the interview, the questions pop up in your mind. And if you've got enough information about the organization already, those questions will pop up a lot easier. You need to do more work than every other applicant. That's really the secret to getting the job that you want to move into. So we help with that, and presentation skills as well. So if you're required to deliver a presentation, which isn't enormously frequent in this space, you're more likely to be required to demonstrate programming skills and knowledge. You'll probably be tested with your programming skills and knowledge. But if you do need to deliver a presentation, then we certainly help with that as well. That's extremely important. So this whole employment service is specifically geared for delegates who go through the program And by the time you get to the end of the program, then we can really help you to try and find the job that you're looking for. Okay, we've had a number of questions already. We've got another question from Mani. What course materials or textbooks will be issued as part of this program?
So
this
Jeff,
is...
sorry,
yeah.
go on. So we're not currently doing, but it's a good idea.
It's very different from so Mani, just to, going back to your the differences between the CQF and the QDC. I hope this has answered that question in part, but I think also the course materials, it's very different because the nature of this course is different. I know the materials that you get on the CQF program. Paul, the materials that are available on this program.
So I think that, so Jeff, maybe this is something that we can take away. So currently we don't offer any textbooks, right? But maybe we should, right? Maybe the book that I write in KDB and so on, maybe we can have like a book per module, right, that we can distribute to students. I think that would be a nice idea. And, we can post them or we can send an ebook or something like that, right? I mean, I think this is something that we could do. Right, and maybe we'll take this offline. I don't know whether we'll action this necessarily before the next cohort, but I mean, we could look into this.
Well, I think this needs to be done, Paul. So just to, we're discussing this in the middle of an information session. There's a reason for that, which is that I was brought on board just a few weeks ago, and these are the kind of things that I'm responsible for implementing. So by the time the program starts in April, yes, there will be materials that we will send out. I wasn't aware that there wasn't, so that is for certain. So, Manny, in response to your question, what will those materials be? Obviously, we don't know yet, but rest assured that there will be. Okay.
Any other questions?
If any questions pop up, I hope this has been really informative and I hope it's been useful for you. And if any questions pop up, tomorrow or in the coming days or weeks, then just again, feel free to contact me. You can either send me an email or give me a call, and I'll do everything I can to help answer your questions. We do. We do have an installment payment policy. I think it's in 2 separate installments, if my memory serves me correctly, but I'll need to double check that. If you want, what I'll do, so Cabal, if you want to ask me that question in an email, and that way we can have an exchange about this, okay? Because I'm sure that you don't have to necessarily pay the whole fee in one go. I think if it is in 2 installments, then I think it's a little bit more expensive. This is just the way these things work. So if you pay the full fee in 1 installment, then it's slightly less expensive than paying in 2 installments. But I need to double check that. Okay. Stefan, what if I have already some experience in C++ and Python? Is there a way to get a more advanced projects?
I think we can do that. I think we can have maybe multiple tiers of projects. We don't currently use them for assessing students, but we can certainly recommend something, and we can probably think of including something like that for people with pre-existing knowledge.
Yeah, and it might be an idea to create some additional webinars. We do run additional webinars outside of this program on a regular basis, and again, for those of you who were late, you have access to these webinars in perpetuity for the rest of your career. So what I'm thinking, Paul, is that maybe we run an additional webinars, however long they may be, in order to cater for what Stefan is asking. And if there are other people who enroll onto the program who do have, you know, fundamental experience in C++ and Python, then potentially this is something that we can definitely do.
Any other questions? No? No questions?
Listen, thanks for your time, everyone. It's really appreciated. And again, if any questions pop up, please feel free to get in touch with me and we will take it from there.
Good luck, guys. Bye-bye.
Enjoy the rest of your days. Take care. Bye-bye.